Good afternoon, everyone. This is the reconvened meeting of the LRB from the 3rd of September. Now, to start with, this is a unique occasion, so things might be slightly different in the way we approach things. First off, I'd just like to make sure that everyone has their mobile phones on silent. If you could just confirm that. Okay. And as we haven't, we might or might not know, can everyone just say exactly who you are? So if we start with me, I'm Councillor Tony Beretti.
My name is Robert Duncan. I'm Independent Planning Advisor for the local review bodies today.
Tracy Sonko, I'm the LRB and Governance Officer.
I'm Holly Drysdale and I'm a local councillor for Ward 4.
I'm Emma Jordan. I'm a councillor for North West Dumfries.
I'm Laura Whitewell and I'm the Principal Solicitor for Commercial Planning and Property.
I'm Lloyd Austin, I'm Training Solicitor.
I'm Maureen Clark, so
I'm Jack Band, we're the applicants.
I'm Adrian Patterson, the agent to the applicants. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so I'll hand over to the clerk at this point.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just confirm that we've got 3 members present at this reconvening in person here is Janara, which is the Chair, Councillor Drysdale and Councillor Jordan. So this is to discuss item 8 from the original agenda from the 15th of May, which is Soulburn Garden Centre, Les Walkstone, refusal of planning permission for erection of dwelling house with roof-mounted solar panels and installation of air source heat pump and septic tank at Soakaway, planning reference 24/0002/FUL. So at the local review body meeting of the 15th of May, this year, the members determined that they required further information to enable them to determine the review. This included additional information to be provided by the applicants in the form of a business plan to help determine whether or not it has been demonstrated that there is essential need for a dwelling house to support a business need in this rural location to comply with National Planning Framework 4 Policy 17. The formal procedure notice was sent out to the applicant's agent on the 4th of July 2025. And this additional information was circulated to members and considered at the meeting on the 3rd of September 2025. After adopted a resolution to exclude the public in terms of Section 50A, 4 paragraph 6 of Part 1 of Schedule 7A of Local Government Scotland Act 1973, and that was due to its sensitive nature. The local review body at its meeting on the 3rd of September determined that they required further information to enable them to determine this review, and was seeking further information from the applicant's agent on the following matters. A response on behalf of the applicant in relation to the specific points contained within section 3.6 of the Housing in the Countryside February 2022 document, which has adopted supplementary guidance to the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan 2, along with arranging an accompanied site visit followed by a hearing on the further information, which will allow the applicant to address the local review body. Formal procedure notice requesting this additional information and indicating that the local review body wished to conduct a site visit and a hearing was sent to the applicant's agent on the 10th of September 2025. The applicant's agent provided a response to this request on the 22nd of September, which brings us to the meeting today. The site visit was held earlier today, which is the 3rd of October, and it was attended by Councillors Beretti, Drysdale and Jordan. And also in attendance was Robert Duncan, the Independent Planning Advisor, myself, Tracy Sonko, the Governance Officer and Clerk, Laura Whitelaw, the Principal Solicitor, Commercial Planning and Property, Louis Dawson, Trained Solicitor. I can confirm that all those persons entitled to appear at the hearing session today were given notice of the date, time and place fixed for the holding of the hearing session. So the purpose of the hearing today is for members to determine whether they have enough information to determine the notice of review, having received a response on behalf of the application in relation to the specific points contained within section 3.6 of the Housing in the Countryside document, and for clarification to be sought as we proceed through the hearing session. Scope and conduct for the hearing session will be as follows. A hearing statement dated the 24th of September was published and circulated to members in advance of the meeting today. Where a person intends to refer or rely on any documents when presenting their case, a list of documents should be provided, and this is attached within your agenda today and comprises of The notice of review dated the 10th of February 2025. The report on handling, which was determined under delegated powers and related correspondence. Observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's agent's notice of review. Comments of the applicant's agent on observations of the appointed officer. Planning application form submitted on the 31st of December 2023. Associated plans and supporting information registered as valid on the 10th of January 2024. And amended plans submitted on the 18th of September 2024. The decision letter from the Increasing Galloway Council dated the 3rd of December 2024. Relevant extracts from the Increasing Galloway Local Development Plan 2 and National Planning Framework 4. The photographs of the application site and locality. You also have your further information which was provided for the reconvened meeting of the 3rd of September, which is dated the 29th of August and was your exempt pack. You then have your further information provided for the reconvened meeting today, which is dated the 24th of September as your supplement pack. So the procedure for the hearing today, the chair will preside over the meeting, taking us through the agenda as detailed. The chair will invite those to speak on matters where clarification is requested by members. The hearing shall take the form of a discussion led by the local review body, and cross-examination is not permitted unless the local review body considers that cross-examination is required to ensure a thorough examination of the issue. No new matters should be introduced that do not form part of the hearing statement, and no questions should be asked of members. As a reminder, I will just go through the original grounds for refusal, which were on page 976 of your original pack. And that was that the proposal is contrary to the Increasing Galloway Council Local Development Plan 2, policy H3, housing in the countryside, and the related supplementary guidance, and NPF 4 policies 9 and 17, which permits the erection of new houses in the countryside only in particular circumstances. Specifically, the proposal is not considered to represent beneficial redevelopment of a brownfield site, as 1, the house is not essential for the needs of agriculture or other business requiring a rural location. 2, the house is not associated with the succession planning of a viable farm holding. And 3, the house would not meet the requirements of the beneficial redevelopment of the brownfield site. So, if the local review body resolves that it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required beyond the further information which has been received, the site visit and the hearing today, then the local review body has the full powers to uphold, reverse or vary a determination. The decision notice will include a statement on the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case. As previously stated in the 2 previous meetings, your planning advisor Robert Duncan is here and he will be given independent advice as required on matters of planning policy, law or process. And your solicitor will also act independently if the local review body require any specific advice on matters of law. So I'll now pass back to the chair and ask him to take us through the agenda today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. As I said at the start, this is an unusual situation because it's the first time I've ever done this. So there may well be that I'll have to refer back to the clerk for clarity on certain issues. But before I do that, Robert, is there anything that you would like to add to what the clerk has said in relation to this particular application?
I think just to say, obviously, the site visit took place this morning. I think we started about 11:30. It was slightly late, mainly due to the poor weather conditions. Members attended, all the members here attended that meeting, as did all the other parties that were around the table. And we looked at the application site itself and the context of that site, and it was actually very useful. But beyond that, there's nothing really further to add to the discussion beyond which the clerk's already outlined.
Okay. First thing I'll want to ask of fellow elected members is that do you think we've had enough information, and do you think you may need to revisit the information we received about the financial status of the application now? Do you think that's the case?
I mean, I would like to establish a little bit more of an understanding for the need for the property, so that's possibly going to come up in the exempt information that we have. I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
Thanks, Emma. No, thank you, Chair. I feel comfortable with the information that I have received, but respectfully, Chair, I'm happy if we wanted to take a recess to look back at the exempt papers. I have studied them through regards to future business planning, so I'm okay with that, but I understand if you would like a recess to yourself, obviously.
Sorry, I just mean I wanted to ask a few more
Oh, yeah,
questions.
100%.
Not
Sorry.
This,
yeah.
this clearly is where we are in uncharted waters because we've never been here, so.
No.
We have the option to either make sure that we go into exempt, or we can, if I'm not mistaken, keep the applicant here and discuss, but I'll just check with Tracy.
Yes, I've checked with the applicants on prior to the meeting and they're all happy to remain in, but we would need to stop the live feed for the public side of the meeting, but when in the room can remain.
Right, okay, so what we'll do is we'll stop the live feed and then we can go into that private session so that we can discuss these matters, so they're not open to the general public. back into the live session. So just to confirm that we can indeed, elect members can in fact ask questions of the applicants. Adrian? So, yes, okay. Right. I have a list here which I would like to question. But let me see, is there anything at this stage that either of my elected member colleagues would like to ask in relation to the application?
Not from me, thank you, Chair.
Well, I'd probably just like to ask a bit more in depth about your business plan, which we alluded to in the private session, just so that we're aware. So after having the site visit today, which was extremely helpful to see the breadth and depth of the business and the actual space around you, it's quite varied. It's a huge amount of land. And it was just to go through, if you don't mind, telling us a bit about your future business plans if you were to progress the business. We have noted from the business plan that you're going to look at different seasonal activities, trying to draw in a more varied audience. So if you could just talk to us a bit about that, because at the moment it is mainly plants, gifts, and a leased out coffee shop. So could you just talk to us today about what you're looking to do with seasonality? There's a bit of it is in the documents, I understand that, but just so that we've got a full understanding from yourself, because it's the first time obviously we've met. Thank you.
No problem. So the physical building at Solburn, we'd aim to put a more substantial all year round like structure there. We find that in the winter it's quite a hard environment to keep warm, and in the summer it's too hot. So it's and from that, creating like that nice environment for people coming to the coffee shop, go and see the gift section. It's quite hard to try and create like a nice environment there, like a consistent environment, and then go and ultimately getting a more like permanent structure there, and creating a new coffee area for Nicola and her team to continue what they're doing so well currently, and creating a nicer inside environment. So that's what we're looking at doing with the building, and getting toilets all under one roof, because now, as I did it today, there's people coming out and you're trying to get from one building to another, and it's not ideal. So we'd like to try and get that all under one roof. And then going into the seasonality of what we're aiming to do, we want to do like pumpkin picking experiences. So currently the closest one for people in Stranraer is at the chocolate factory at Twynham. Or there's beyond Reconvened, so it's quite a bit of travel for everybody locally to actually go and do that experience with their kids. I've got fond memories of going strawberry picking at Solburn when I was a child, and there used to be quite a lot of fruit picking locally, but currently now the closest one is in is it Kelso? It's Border Fruits, so it's Border Berries, I think it's called. But so that's a lot of traveling to actually go and do these like experiences where you're getting that young interaction with like outdoors fruit and where food comes from. So we want to bring that back and actually give like local people them experiences where their families and like all generations, whether it's older, younger, and that's what we're aiming to do. We'd like to do like at Christmas time, bring back like Santa's Grotto and try and kind of cover a few of the things that we feel is lacking in the local area. So
you would be keen to develop the business more so with the blueprint of other farm shop type. I know it's not a farm, whereas this is where we get into difficulties with this application, because unfortunately for you, you can't look at one of the policies because it's only farm succession planning on page 762, which we can speak to the officers about later. You have difficulties, which I understand. You've been very honest about your succession planning, which is interesting. So at least as members, we can hear that you're willing to develop, you're looking to develop the business so that it's more broader and reaches the public and visitors over the course of the whole year is what we've really been trying to get at, which I think, well, for myself, I've got a better understanding of that now. So thank you for that.
Councillor Jordan, have you any observations from the site visit? Because this is where we need to tease out these things.
No, I mean, it was good to see the site and get an idea of the challenges that will be faced running a business. Or, you know, it's a big site. So yeah, no questions, but I appreciate being shown the site. Thank you.
Okay. Right. That does put us in a bit of, in sense that, again, because this is a new situation, do you have any other observations or comments about the proposals or the fact that it doesn't maybe meet with terms of LDP2 policy H3 and policy NPF4 policies 9 and 17 of the new Act? Emma?
Yeah, so initially I wasn't sure if it would meet the needs of NPF 4, 9 and 17, essential needs for agricultural or business requiring a rural location, but would the planting, that would be agricultural, wouldn't it? I think. Would that be agricultural? Can I ask through you, Chair? That would be.
I would probably say yes, but I'll even ask Pauline if you want to.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Actually, you'll find on page 761 in LDP2 policy H3, criteria only has to meet one policy. Now, actually, in my mind, it meets two, and in fact, a third, unfortunately, if the policy was changed so that you were considering in policy 3 that you could include other businesses. But in criteria 2, LDP 2 policy H3 supports new residential development in the countryside where one or more, so we only need one, but we've actually got 2/3, I would suggest. But the house is essential for the needs of agriculture or other business. In policy criteria, LDP 2, policy H3, criteria 2, it's agriculture or other business.
Requiring a rural location, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'll just bring in Robert in as well. That's the official to confirm that when we're then on it.
Thanks, Chair. Just happy to clarify, I'm looking at the same part of the paper. So this is on page 761 of your paper from the 15th of May. And what you're looking at there is the case officer's report. It's been signed off by the appointed officer. So that was the basis for the decision that was taken. The decision that was taken is on page 976, and we've got stated reasons there. But what's been pointed out is paragraph 445. So this is looking at page 761. Policy H3 and LDP2 is the one that relates to housing in the countryside. And as you've said, it supports new residential development in the countryside where one or more of 7 stated criteria are met. So it then narrows it down to the 3 being relevant to this case. So criterion 2, that the house is essential for the needs of agriculture or other business requiring a rural location. And there is supplementary guidance that has been come into about that if necessary. And that was obviously looked at the previous meeting. Criterion 3, that's just a single house associated with the succession planning of a viable farm holding. So it's specific to that, where there are no buildings suitable or economically viable for conversion to residential use on the farm unit. So I don't think that's really applicable in this case because it is just in relation to a farm unit. And then you've got criterion 4, that any house would involve beneficial redevelopment of a brownfield site. Now, I know you've looked for extra information in relation to criterion 4 and 5, but as Councillor Drysdale's pointed out, it's just a minimum of one of those criteria that required to be met. And if you feel that, one or more of those criteria have been met, then your view would be that it actually accords with policy H3 and the related supplementary guidance.
Is that all right?
Well,
Do you mind?
Well, sorry, if I could just finish. I was just saying I believe that it does meet the needs for agriculture. That's what I was saying. I think it's planting. I think there is need there. So I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
I think that's right. I think pursue yourself, Chair, is it okay?
Yeah, I might even get a question, but I'll let you go first.
Well, just thank you very much. Yeah, so I think we've clarified that it is not just agriculture in policy, LDP 2 policy H3, it's other, so we're okay on that one if we agree that we think it's relevant. But however, I would also advocate that criteria 4 is relevant as well, because any house that would involve beneficial redevelopment of a brownfield site is extremely important. Now those policies have changed, brownfield site policies have changed. So on page 725, the applicants, the case for appeal at 1.4, we talk about the redevelopment of a previously developed parcel of land, and it would in fact result in the beneficial redevelopment of a previously used part of the overall garden centre premises. And the site visit really helped us clarify that today with regards to the brownfield site, because we witnessed the actual depletion or dilapidation of the current building that was there, as we could see the roof was collapsing and the company themselves sober and aren't actually able to even use it as much as they used to for holding stock. So I would advocate that there were 2 policies here that were relevant to this case. But obviously I need to wait till you ask your questions.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. In part, what the councillor said there, I was going to ask as well, the actual site that we're discussing has had, if I'm not mistaken, substantial work done to it probably over the last 5 decades, so to get it to that point. So any work that potentially would be done to it would be going back and re-looking at that ground and disturbing it all again, because none of it is natural. The other thing that I would like to ask is that on your supplementary material, you do talk about the value of bedding plants, shrubs and pumpkins, but various other things. How much of an impact do you think it would have if you didn't have someone on site because of delivery times of vehicles, supply, lorries turning up potentially out of hours, breakdowns, equipment breakdowns, weather-related events? What do you think would be the impact?
Well, I feel like it would be massive. Like you could have like frost coming in at night, you could bend plants out there, need to move them inside. If you're not doing that, you could lose trolleys and trolleys of stock, and the next day that stock's not there, and then lead time and trying to get stock. Your clientele are wanting things available. That stock's gone. You can't just say, "Oh, I want the next day." It's all arranged and ordered like way in advance to try and like
How far in advance?
for bed plans. So we're probably I'm initially ordering our spring stock. We've probably given them maybe 5 months notice, but then to top up that stock we could probably get something in a week's notice to keep up.
Do you, in this industry, do you find it easy to, as you just said, stock up if an accident happens? What's your reality?
Well, it's quite a rural location, so trying to get deliveries and to justify that, like, can't you say you've got a small quantity, so quite a remote area, so you're looking at increased cost of getting that stock there, so you've got to generally get things in bulk to actually to get a good price point.
Yeah, so you would say that it is essentially it's critical to make sure you don't lose any stock due to whether it's breakdown events of your equipment or weather-related events.
Oh, definitely. It would be critical to the ongoing running to the best, keeping that quality of stock there. So,
okay. Members.
Thank you very much, Chair. I actually went to check that the people I was supposed to be meeting this morning had left after we'd had our site visit, and went around all the units of the shop, just took some time out and had a look. And I think you were actually, your staff were dealing with a weather event today, because unfortunately, I hate to tell you this, the shop was leaking. So weather events are at the front of our minds all the time when it comes to running businesses. I myself run a business, and deliveries for our business, it's not agricultural. They are never Pioneer decided to deliver late before anything. That's my problem. But I get the delivery side of it. I would say for this committee, it's very reliable, especially ferry times changing. If you're buying stock from Europe coming in from Southern Ireland, it's also very debatable in terms of the timings. But yeah, you're also dealing with, is the current building, the greenhouses, I would call them, I understand they're quite hard to heat, and you're looking at trying to develop that. Are they windproof, or do you get particularly concerned during the winter when the wind gets up that they could, are they weighty enough to?
We don't really have, but sometimes we'll get panes of glass blown in, but it's quite rare. It's more with combined with the wind and rain, it's more like pushing the rain into areas where
Yeah.
you don't want it getting wet. But
Yeah, that's
Just ask one question based on that. One of the things that we do seem to be getting a lot more frequent and extreme are storms. If, as you say, you have functional damage on a building that does have stock, what is the likely loss going to be if you are not on site or are not aware of that damage actually happening?
well, in the section, we've got items there that if they were to get wet, you're losing tens of thousands of pounds. And to a small like rural business, like they weather events could be really damaging to the.
Is any of this stuff insurable? Or put it this way, if it is insurable, what happens if you have too many claims?
It'd be non-viable.
no, you're close. You just forgot that.
Right, members, I've got no more questions. Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't have any more questions. I'd like
Okay.
to propose that
We are going to go into session.
Chair, I'll perhaps just take us back to the agenda that we've all got in front of us. I'll just perhaps run through the main issues that you're referring to for this case, which is with the proposal comply with the terms of the development plan in principle, in particular with the proposal with the terms of the LDP2 policy H3 and the guidance set out in the adopted LDP2 supplementary guidance in relation to the principle of the proposed development at this application site. With the proposal failed to comply with NPF4 policies 9 and 17, could the proposal be considered to represent the appropriate and beneficial redevelopment of a brownfield site as defined within the NPF4, where a return to a natural state has not or will not happen without intervention? It is set out within NPF4 policy 17 that development proposals for all new home proposals would require to be suitably scaled, sited and designed to be in keeping with the character of the area. Is it agreed that the proposed dwelling house is not essential for the needs of agriculture or other business required in a rural location? If it's not considered that this proposal does not accord with the terms of the development plan, are there a set of material considerations of sufficient weight to justify a departure from the terms of the development plan? If so, what grounds would such a decision be made? What reasons would members give for such a decision if it was considered that the proposal departs from the terms of the development plan? If members are minded to reverse the appointed officer's decision and instead grant planning permission for the proposal, what set of conditions and reasons would members wish to see attached, if any? And if members are minded to vary the terms of the appointed officer's decision, what changes to the specific reasoning for the decision would be required and which additional clauses, if any, would be referenced? I think if members have got any questions of those points that they wish to put before then to deliberation.
Can I just ask Robert if he could go over or speak to us about conditions, if we were so minded, please.
Yeah, I've had a look at that in advance. Now, it's an application for full planning permission. So the standard condition, if you are minded to grant permission in this case, would read the development to which this planning permission relates shall be begun not later than the expiration of 3 years, beginning with the date of grant of this permission. The reason for that I would recommend would be to define the duration of the planning permission in accordance with the provisions of section 58 of the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997, as amended by section 32 of the Planning Scotland Act 2019. So that's a fairly standard condition and reason for a full application. Beyond that, I've looked at page 781 where you've got response to the council approach planning team leader. One recommended condition there, which is basically to provide 3 car parking spaces for the development for the lifetime of it before occupation. I would suggest that the reason for that would be in order to provide sufficient car parking area for this development in accordance with the advice of the council roads planning team leader. And that then explains it properly. There's nothing obvious beyond that. Could put condition on, for example, about design and finishes. If you felt that was necessary, you could put a condition on to remove permitted development rights if you wanted to, but you would need reasons to do that. What I would say is if you're minded to grant permission and you're also happy with the development that you see in front of you in your papers, and again, those are the plans that are on. Let's write this down. Pages 965, 967, 969, and 971. 967 is probably most useful because it shows you the elevations on the floor plans. If you're comfortable with the design and finish that's specified there, then I don't think those conditions are necessary. Basically, removing permitted development rights just gives you control over the future appearance of it. So it's taking away rights that householders would normally have to change their properties and extend it and put things in the cartilage of it. And that's really at your discretion. I don't honestly see a compelling for that in this situation, but that's just my own view.
So we're straying into things that we should be discussing in our session. So Laura.
Chair, through yourself, Robert, I just wanted to check with you, and looking through the papers, there was comment about there not being an energy statement lodged. I just wondered if that had come in subsequently, or if that would be something that we'll be looking to condition as well.
You could put a condition on about the energy statement. I think that's something that could be successfully met. So it's a good point if that information has been missed, then it could be a requirement that that is submitted and agreed in writing before the dwelling house is occupied.
Okay, is there any more questions?
No, not.
No. So if we're having any more questions of the applicant, we're going into session, which means that no more questions can be asked and there's no more response from applications. Okay.
But sorry, Chair, I'm led to believe that we were asking questions of Robert now before we go into session, and I haven't finished us.
Well, that would be the thing that we're doing in
Fine.
now. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's
the question, Robert, you can ask.
Is that okay? That's what I was trying to do. Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So, Robert, just quickly, I know we're going to go into session, so I want to.
Session.
Are we on session?
Yeah. You can ask Robert these questions.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Robert, just a quick question. I want to make a statement once we've heard from the other two councillors that wish to speak in terms of where I sit with this. But before I go into that, with regards to policy 9 and 17, I'm comfortable with both. This is MPF 4 policies 9 and 17. So policy 17 rural homes, it meets A, point 2 and point 5. It meets B, in my opinion, C, 1, 2 and 3, D, 2, 3 and 4. Does it have to meet for policy 17 all of them? Because it seems to meet about 80% of them, in my unprofessional opinion. So for policy 17 was the only query I was having with, so I can, they're all listed on page 988. Now, the reason I think it meets most of them is because the applicant has returned to us with a fresh application that is more in keeping with regards to scale and siting. So I just wanted to double check because it meets about 80% of policy 17, which to me is high enough on this.
Yeah, thanks for the reference to the page. That's what I was looking for. Policy 17, rural homes, it says development proposals for new homes in rural areas will be supported where the development is suitably scaled, sited and designed to be in keeping with the character of the area. So that's a given for all forms of development. And then it says, and the development, and it gives you 8 options. And I'll not read those out because they're in your papers. But I think you have to look at it meeting one of those criteria, because it's not going to be possible in all cases for them to meet
Yeah, it can.
all of them. It would be absurd if you read that policy as having to meet all of points 1 to 8. It's given you, as far as I'm concerned, a list of choices, but I see that the legal advisors to come in on this point.
Chair.
Laura.
Chair, thank you. Through yourself, if it's helpful, looking at policy 17, the normal rule when you're doing interpretation of policy or legislation is that if something says or between the criterion, then it's a case of one, not all of them. And when you look at policy 17A, between Roman numeral 7 and Roman numeral 8, it is or, it is not and.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Laura. I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay. Emma, you might noting a change from the position from the last time. How would you like to explain a little bit? What do you think?
I mean, I think that there is need, an agricultural need. I think it meets that criteria. I think that's enough. I wouldn't call that a rural location personally, but perhaps others do. It's not my definition, but that doesn't matter because it meets the agricultural need. I think, particularly with weather, I think that someone needs to be there to look after things. The weather comes in quite quickly sometimes, or things unexpectedly happen. So I think it meets the agricultural need. That's my view at the moment.
Yeah, I'll make a statement. As we alluded to before, it actually just meets, it's essential for the needs of another business, not necessarily agriculture. So it doesn't actually come under that unless they've brought animals on. So it meets that criteria. So I would like to say that I would support this development now that it's been rescaled. I think the applicant's been extremely flexible, and the agent. And I think we need to all, as a committee, hopefully in planning, congratulate anybody in Decrease and Galloway who's bringing in new business to the area. But that's not part of this discussion today. It's material planning conditions and so on and so forth that we need to consider today. So I would like to propose that we do support this development, contrary to the first officer's refusal for various reasons. But I would like to say we support it on LDP 2 policy H3, whereby we support new residential development in the countryside where 2 of the 7 criteria are met. Criteria 2, the house is indeed essential for the needs of other business requiring a rural location. And criteria 4, that indeed in this case, this house would involve the beneficial redevelopment of a brownfield site. I also think it meets policies 9 and 17, which is part of it, meeting the beneficial development of a brownfield site as defined in the glossary within NPF 4. Because a return to a natural state in this case has not or will not happen without intervention. Thank you, Chair.
Emma, do you have the same view at this stage?
Yeah.
So that, so you're basically it's
Yeah.
66% of this commission is
Happy to,
agreeing.
yeah, happy to agree.
Right, okay. Can I ask Robert to encapsulate that in a way that satisfies the 2 elected members?
I think from what you're saying is your view is that you think the proposal accords with the terms of LDP 2 policy H3, the housing and the countryside policy. And it's also according with the terms of National Planning Framework for policies 9, which is the brownfield one, and 17, which is the rural homes policy. So on that basis, you're making the decision to grant planning permission. And I'm assuming that will be subject to the 3 conditions which we discussed earlier. Just coming back to the reasoning about the energy statement which the local advisor made. On page 766 of the delegated report, it does cover that. I had spotted it earlier. And I think it could require a submission of all of the statement to the people outside the front of the house was occupied. The reason for that would be in order to accord with policy OP1 part F or OP2, just for the avoidance of doubt there, because I don't think I gave you a reason. So, but I think coming back to the kind of thrust of the statement that was read out, I think clearly you feel that this does actually accord with the terms of the development plan. You want to grant permission, you know, and overturn the appointed officer's decision, and I think you have sufficient grounds to do that. But I mean, the clerk and the council's local advisor would want to comment on that as well.
We would just let one point on policy 17, but that obviously include not all, but some, the majority, including point 5, which is demonstrated to be necessary to sustainable management.
I think the reading of the discussion read out in relation to policy 17 was that we felt that 2 of the 7 points set out have been met. Now, I'm trying to find it again. It's page 766, I think.
980.
988, sorry. So what I was taking was, when you look at the list of points there under policy 17, you felt that point 2 was met. And you also felt that point 5, because it was essential for the need of the rural business to live permanently after Parliament. So, I mean, if you feel there's more points than that, then fine, but I actually take it that you felt that those were the 2 points of policy 17. I mean, therefore that they met.
I would agree to that.
Chair,
Sorry, Lloyd.
Chair, thank you. Through yourself. From my understanding of the initial report by the delegated officer, it was accepted by the delegated officer that policy 17.9 of NPF 4 had been met. The difficulty that they had was the local policy H3, and in particular they had seen that they did not think it was need. Now the councillors have seen and had additional information, and they have reached the conclusion that there is a need. But the other point which they had made in connection with particularly the supplementary guidance on H3 on a brownfield site, because they accepted it was a brownfield site, but there was a difficulty in the supplementary guidance H8, I think it was 5.8, where they had said that they had interpreted it as being that this was a large development, and as it was a large development, the property could be no larger in its footprint. And that seems to have been the sticking point when you look through the correspondence in the papers, that seems to have been the sticking point at the end, that the property that was going to be built was going to be 11 square metres bigger than what is currently there. So if members are content that this is a brownfield site and they're saying that they think it is in accordance with the policy, you may wish to, in your decision, address why it is that the appointed officer and the delegated officer had said that they thought 5.8 of the supplementary guidance was not met, and why you feel either that should be overridden in the present case because of other material considerations, or that you don't think that is a correct interpretation of 5.8. I think it is worth, given that was the sticking point in the initial decision, to address that in your decision here.
Essentially, there are 2 potentials there. One, it's either overridden or
you could say, Chair, if although you have acknowledged it was brownfield, I mean, there's no doubt in the officers' minds at the time that it was brownfield. Their difficulty was that when you looked at the local policy, that 5.8, paragraph 5.8 was not met. You have already said that you now think it is actually essential need. You could, if you wanted to, say we think because it's essential need, we're not even going to address the brownfield and just leave that to one side. We have one criterion, we think it's satisfied, so we don't even have to talk about the brownfield. But if you bring in the brownfield, I think it is worth, given that is a point that the appointed officer and also the delegated officer have made about the size, that you should address that in your decision.
And either the 2 elected members would like to speak first.
Okay, through yourself, Chair, if we can ask legal, if we were to include it, could we say that we think it does address it now because the scaling and sizing of the new plans are more in keeping or not. You've probably explained that, sorry.
I don't think it does, Councillor Drysdale, because the specific point, I don't know whether you've got policy, the supplementary guidance.
That's bad.
Above you.
Is it at the back of it?
I'm using the actual website rather than through the pack of papers, so I don't know the number, but I can say.
Policy 5.8.
It's the supplementary guidance to the housing in the countryside. Is that part of the pack? Do you know, Robert?
No, the supplementary guidance doesn't get
No, don't know
released as part of the pack to reduce space in it. It's paragraph 5.8 of that document. I mean, Chair, if you're looking for my thoughts on that, I'm happy to provide.
Yeah, well, if you could do that.
Put it on the screen share for it.
Oh, I
It'll
can-
be
I
nice to
can
hear
see
from
it.
you, but-
I'm able to see it.
We could read it out for you, Chair, if you want. What it says is, care should be taken regarding proposals on large previously developed brownfield sites. Developments in the countryside should be of a scale and density appropriate to their surroundings, and it should be not seen as necessary to develop a site in its entirety. So that takes into account, Councillor Drysdale, your point about scale and massing. This is a difficult point here. The physical footprint of new buildings shall be no greater than that of the existing buildings and will, in most instances, require to be significantly less. And this appropriate scheme will require to meet the requirements of policy OP2, design and quality of new development. And it is that one sentence which has been the sticking point where the delegated report and the appointed officer had both said, yes, NPF 17 is met. Yes, we can see how it is brownfield, but they had interpreted it as this is a large development. And so therefore with 5.8, it should be no greater a footprint. So I would suggest that your options here are to say, actually, we recognise it's brownfield, but we don't have to go down that particular route because we are satisfied that the other criterion is met, that this is essential needs, so we don't have to even go down there. Or if you felt that you did want to include it in your reasoning, I would suggest we'd have to say either that you didn't think this actually was a large previously developed brownfield site, although I would caution you in that because that seems to be the established interpretation of the planning authority that something of this scale is a large development. Or your third option would be, if you were saying that you do want brownfield as part of your reasoning, is we are willing to see it as brownfield and we actually are going to decide it contrary to that part of the supplementary guidance because we think in the circumstances the other material considerations warrant it.
One last question through yourself, Chair. Can I have a go?
When you go.
When we're talking about this policy, Laura, I take it we're talking about not the other sheds and the other house, just the site on
Yeah.
top of the site.
Yeah,
And what was the percentage? Did we work out it's 20% bigger or something?
what I remember is 11 square metres.
So it's not a massive difference, but because it is bigger, that is.
Because
contributing. Okay.
and that is your supplementary guidance
Yeah, which is.
to H3, and because it is supplementary guidance, it is part of your local development plan.
So we stick there, I would suggest to H3, the first.
Yeah.
What I would suggest, well, what I would say to my fellow elected members is that when all of these current policies were brought in, which was basically last year, a lot of way that people would look at things is based on older policies now. Buildings and materials have moved on. I'm looking at this in the very last comment that Laura made, that we shouldn't take it into consideration because we think that is.
You have the option, because you have decided the difficulty that the delegated officer and the appointed officer had was they did not think they had seen sufficient information to warrant there being essential need. Now, you've had the benefit of a business plan, you've had the benefit of further information, you've also had the benefit of a site visit, and also speaking to the applicant and his supporting witness. If you feel as a result of that you now have information that you feel actually there is an essential need, then that is one of the criteria, and as you said yourself, you don't require.
Yeah,
to look at the others.
I think.
Yep.
I will say this point, the three of us agree that there is an essential need.
Yeah, so we're
There's no
happy.
doubt. I'm happy with the decision that's been made.
Mhm.
It's a question of arriving at
Mhm.
a suitable
Yeah.
conclusion that justifies our position.
But then, Chair, I would suggest to you that you don't mention brownfield.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Okay. Is that in accordance, Paul?
yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Laura, for that clarification. I think we will therefore, in my point of view, whether my elected members agree or not, we'll go for LDP policy H3 after our site visit because it supports new residential development in the countryside where one of the criteria are met, criteria 2.
Right.
And that's what I'd be happy with.
Are you happy with
Yeah.
that?
Happy with that.
Emma?
Yeah.
I'm happy with that as well. Robert, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I can offer you a view in 5.8 if you like. It's entirely up to you.
On you go.
Chair, but the sound of it, I mean, my view is simply that when you look at 5.8, it says care should be taken regarding proposals on large previously developed brownfield sites. I don't think this is a large previously developed or brownfield site, and therefore the rest of that paragraph doesn't apply. Now, I realise other chartered town planners might take a different view in relation to that point as the appointed officer did, but that's my view on it. And I don't think it should be included in the consideration. I don't think it makes any sense. Why would you want the new building, if it's a small site, to not be any bigger than the previous one? Because it might prevent a practical building from coming into existence. There's no discernible difference. You're talking 11 square metres. It's an irrelevance in this case, as far as I'm concerned.
Laura, I'll bring you in the last point. Are you?
Chair, that's absolutely within your gift. If you're, as I say, one of your options is if you want to go down brownfield, then you would be saying that we as a board take a different interpretation of it.
Right, okay, well, I'll go with councillor Drysdale's recommendation in the sense that we don't, and we all agree to allow this proposal
With conditions.
with conditions.
The energy.
Based on what we just said. Claire?
Oh, yeah, just to summarise, Chair, so members are looking to reverse the decision, the appointed officer and approve the application on the grounds that the proposal would comply with LDP policy H3 for housing in the countryside and would meet the criteria that it's essential for the needs of agriculture or other business requiring a rural location. And that would be subject to the conditions around that Robert read out, which was the start date, commencement of the permission and the reasons for that, the roads condition and the energy statement condition. And I know Robert had said whether members were likely to do the design and finishes and the economic development. I'm happy just with the 3 conditions, without the economic development and the design finishes. Happy with just the 3 conditions.
So we would be leaving the design and development for the planning team to sign off. That most of them are there, and is that right? Yeah, it's not up to us to condition those in. Is that what we're agreeing?
Is that correct? Leave it to the plan.
Design and finishing, we'll come back to you, Robert.
That would need to be
Well,
conditioned to come back to
The
the
design
LGT.
finishes, it's a full application that you've got in front of you. So what I was saying was, if you look at the proposal, if you're happy with the design and finishes in front of you, there's no need for any further conditions.
Are you happy both?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I think that's it, Claire.
Yes. Are you happy with that, Laura? Do you-
Absolutely fine, yes. And the energy, sorry, the energy statement was, I was busy listening to your.
Yes,
The energy
that's
statement.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely fine.
Right, I suppose that just leaves me to say the application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And will, I take it, bring this meeting to an end.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, everyone.
Chair.
Thank you, everyone. For
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your